My fiancée slept with her boss, then tried to trap me into her share of my $180,000 inheritance. But I gave her a lesson, and the ending she never foresaw. I, a 32-year-old male, and Allison, a 30-year-old female, had been together for 7 years. We met during a friend's house party right after college. Everyone in our circle thought we were relationship goals, the couple that had their act together. I'm a software developer at a mid-sized tech company. Nothing fancy, but it pays the bills with enough leftover. Allison works in marketing for a big retail chain. We'd been saving for our future together and had about $43,000 put away for the wedding and honeymoon. I proposed at her favorite restaurant last year, spending $3,200 on the ring. 3 months' salary like they say you're supposed to. We were supposed to get married in 6 weeks. We had a $22,000 venue deposit, a $4,000 photographer, and a $3,500 catering deposit. You get the picture? Everything was locked and loaded. I was incredibly pumped to start our lives together. My background isn't anything special. My parents died in a car accident when I was 12. My Aunt Carol raised me along with my 2 cousins in a smallish house in the suburbs. I worked hard in school, got a partial scholarship to state, and met Allison during my junior year through mutual friends. I'm not the most outgoing guy, but I've got a solid group of friends, mainly from my gaming group and work. I've always been the reliable type, the guy people call when they need help moving or a designated driver, the kind of boring, stable life my aunt always hoped I'd have after all the trauma early on. Allison was different. She came from money, though not crazy rich. Her dad's a dentist, and her mom's an elementary school principal. She has 2 siblings, an older brother, Jake, who's some hotshot in finance, and younger sister Emma, who's in grad school. Allison was the pretty popular girl in college who somehow noticed me. Out of my league, everyone said, including me, if I'm being honest. She was vivacious, ambitious, always the center of attention, and for some reason, she chose me. At least that's what I thought. Then, 2 weeks ago, I used Allison's iPad to check some fantasy football stats while she was at her final dress fitting with her mom and sister. A WhatsApp notification popped up from her boss, Mark, a 38-year-old man, still thinking about last night. Your mouth is magical. My heart stopped. I know I shouldn't have snooped, but I couldn't help myself. I opened WhatsApp and scrolled up. The texts, nude photos and videos were indescribable without feeling sick again. Detailed plans about hotel meetups during work conferences that never existed. They'd been going at it for almost 3 months, and from the messages, it wasn't their first rodeo. References to last summer in Chicago and that weekend in Austin made it clear this had been going on intermittently for at least a year. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the iPad. One exchange stood out and seared itself into my brain. Mark, what happens after the wedding? Going to play the good wife? Allison, please, Ryan's so boring in bed. He actually thinks missionary twice a week is spicing things up. I need a real man on the side. Mark, won't he suspect anything? Allison, Ryan? He's clueless, such a trusting idiot. I could probably sleep with someone in our bed and he'd believe me if I said it wasn't what it looked like. I took screenshots of everything, emailed them to myself, then put the iPad back exactly where I found it. I spent the next few hours in a daze, sitting in our apartment, looking at all the framed photos of us. 7 years of memories, vacations, holidays with family, stupid selfies at concerts. Was any of it real, or was I just a convenient cover story for her all along? The boring but stable guy she could parade around to her parents while having her fun on the side. When Allison got home, all excited about her dress alterations, I confronted her. I didn't yell or throw the iPad, just asked her calmly what was going on with Mark. The look on her face wasn't even guilt, just annoyance at being caught. Then she hit me with it. It's just sex, Ryan. It doesn't mean anything. I wanted to get it out of my system before the wedding. After 7 years with one person, can you blame me? I just stared at her. Was she serious? Don't look at me like that, she continued, rolling her eyes like I was being dramatic. It's not like you satisfy me anymore anyway. When was the last time you even tried something new in bed? Mark is just an experience, a phase. Once we're married, it'll be done. I found my voice finally. You've been sleeping with your boss behind my back for months. And I'm supposed to be okay with that because it's your what? Your last hurrah before marriage? She actually laughed and flipped her hair over her shoulder. God, it's not like I'm in love with him or something. He's just good at certain things that you're not. She looked me up and down with this dismissive expression that made me feel about 2 inches tall. I mean, let's be real, Ryan. You're not exactly the type of guy who turns heads. You should be grateful someone like me even looked your way. Most girls with my options wouldn't have settled for... She gestured vaguely at all of me, like I was some kind of consolation prize she'd reluctantly accepted. When I didn't respond, she sighed dramatically. Look, every bride gets cold feet. Some people go bungee jumping. I decided to explore other options. It's normal. You're making this way bigger than it needs to be. My buddy Cole, a 33-year-old male, has always said Allison was high maintenance, but this was next-level entitlement. She didn't even see what she did as wrong. In her mind, she deserved a final fling before committing to me forever, like marrying me was some kind of prison sentence she needed a last taste of freedom before. "If it bothers you that much," she added, tossing her purse on the counter and checking her reflection in the hallway mirror, "go get yourself some side action too. Consider it my pre-wedding gift to you. Just be discreet about it, unlike you sneaking through my messages. That's honestly the most unattractive part of all this, you violating my privacy." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was turning this around on me for finding out she was cheating. "We're done," I said, my voice strangely calm despite the storm raging inside me. "The wedding's off." That got her attention. She whirled around, eyes wide. "Don't be ridiculous. We've put down deposits. My parents have paid for the rehearsal dinner. Everyone's RSVP'd already. Like the logistics were the important part here, not the fact that she'd utterly betrayed my trust. "I'm sure you'll figure it out," I said, grabbing my keys, wallet, and laptop. "You're resourceful that way," she yelled after me. "Where the hell are you going? We have the menu tasting tomorrow. Ryan, don't you dare walk out that door. Ryan!" I didn't answer, just got in my car and drove to Cole's apartment. I texted him on the way, "Need a place to crash. Allison's been cheating. Wedding's off." His reply came seconds later, "Doors unlocked, beers in the fridge. I always knew she was a snake." Cole let me crash at his place. No questions asked. His girlfriend, Maya, a 31-year-old female, made up the couch for me and gave me space. True friends. They didn't push for details that first night. Just let me sit in stunned silence, trying to process how my entire future had just imploded. The next morning, the texts and calls from Allison started. "You're being childish. We need to talk about this like adults. You can't just throw away 7 years over one indiscretion. My mother already ordered the flowers, for God's sake." I blocked her number. I couldn't deal with it. I went to work in a daze, told my boss I needed some personal days, headed back to Cole's, and just existed. I didn't eat much, didn't sleep much, just stared at the ceiling, wondering how I could have been so blind for so long. 3 days of ignored calls and texts from Allison later, she started using her friends' phones to contact me. I got a message from someone unexpected. Zoe, a 29-year-old female, Allison's maid of honor and supposed best friend since high school. "Can we meet for coffee? It's important." I figured Allison had sent her to do damage control, but I was curious what story she'd come up with. We met at this local coffee shop where Zoe worked part-time alongside her graphic design business. "I know what happened," she said before I even sat down, "and you should know this isn't the first time." My coffee almost spilled all over me. "What?" Zoe looked uncomfortable but determined. "Allison's been like this since college. She cheated on her ex before you with multiple guys. She's done this with you before too." She pulled out her phone and showed me texts where Allison had bragged about hookups with her personal trainer 2 years ago, some guy from her company retreat last year, and now this ongoing thing with Mark. The worst part was the way she talked about me in these messages. "Ryan's so clueless. He thinks I'm working late, lol. He's too scared to lose me. I could probably have someone right in front of him, and he'd apologize to me." The sad puppy look on his face when I say I'm too tired for sex. If only he knew I was drained from Mark railing me in the supply closet. I felt physically sick. 7 years I'd been loyal to this woman. There was a picture from 3 weeks after I proposed, her making out with some stranger at a club during her girls' night out. She'd captioned it to Zoe, "Last-minute applications for the position of husband still being accepted." "Why are you showing me this?" I asked Zoe. "Aren't you supposed to be her best friend?" Zoe sighed, pushing her dark hair behind her ears nervously. "I used to cover for her cheating because she convinced me it was just harmless fun, but the way she's talking about you, it's cruel. And I realized I've been enabling something really toxic. You don't deserve this, Ryan." She looked down at her coffee. "Plus, if I'm being honest, she's not the same person I became friends with in high school. Success at work, that fancy apartment, the designer clothes, it's changed her. She treats people like they're disposable now, even me." "What do you mean?" I asked. "Last month, I lost a big client. I was stressed about making rent. I asked if I could crash on your couch for a week until my next check came in. Allison told me no because it would bring down the vibe of the apartment to have a struggling artist there. We've been friends for 15 years and she couldn't help me for 1 week." I shook my head, remembering how I'd wondered why Zoe hadn't been around much lately. Allison had said she was just busy with work. "There's more," Zoe continued. "I probably shouldn't tell you this, but she's been using your joint savings to buy stuff for Mark. Expensive watches, weekend trips, even paid for a spa day for his wife to get her out of the way so they could use his house once. That was the last straw, our wedding fund, the money we'd both been saving for years. I'd been bringing lunches from home, skipping nights out with friends, picking up extra projects for bonuses, all while she was spending it on her affair. "I'm really sorry, Ryan," Zoe said, genuine sadness in her eyes. "I should have told you sooner. I just hoped she would stop before the wedding, that she really did love you underneath it all." "Did she ever?" I asked, hating how pathetic I sounded. "Love me, I mean?" Zoe looked at me for a long moment. "I think she loved the idea of you. Stable, loyal, kind. The guy her parents would approve of. The guy who would never leave her no matter what she did. But the real you, the person you actually are? She shook her head. I don't think Allison sees anyone clearly beyond how they can be useful to her. Over the next week, something unexpected happened. Zoe and I started talking regularly. It began with her feeding me more information, screenshots of Allison mocking me to their friend group, evidence of other affairs I hadn't known about, the fact that Allison had been using our wedding fund to buy expensive gifts for Mark. She called your Star Wars collection embarrassing man-child junk to everyone, but told you she thought it was cute too. Her face, Zoe revealed during one of our coffee meetups. She told her gym friends that your dream of opening your own development studio someday was adorably delusional and that she was managing your expectations by telling you to stick with your safe corporate job. Each revelation was like ripping off another Band-Aid, painful but necessary. The picture emerging was clear. Allison had never respected me, maybe never even liked the real me at all. Meanwhile, Allison was acting like nothing had happened, texting me about flower arrangements and honeymoon plans from new numbers I hadn't blocked yet. When I didn't respond, she switched between playing the victim. I can't believe you're giving me the silent treatment over nothing, and being aggressive. You're ruining everything I've planned because you're too insecure to handle reality. Her sister, Emma, a 27-year-old female, even called me to say I was being childish and needed to man up because Allison was stressed about the wedding. Clearly, Allison had fed her some false story. When I told Emma the truth, there was a long silence before she said, "That sounds like something Allison would say, actually," and hung up. I didn't hear from her again. Cole and his brother, Liam, a 35-year-old male, took me out to get my mind off things. At the bar, I ran into Zoe with some of her friends. We all ended up hanging out, and for the first time in weeks, I actually laughed and enjoyed myself. As the night went on, I noticed things about Zoe I'd never paid attention to before. The way her eyes crinkled when she laughed, how she actually asked questions and remembered details about people, her creative passion when she talked about her design work. She was wearing this vintage Zelda t-shirt that I commented on, and she lit up, going on about how Ocarina of Time was her all-time favorite game. We ended up in this intense discussion about video games that I realized Allison would have shut down with an eye roll 2 minutes in, but Zoe was as into it as I was. "How did I never know you were such a gamer?" I asked her. Her smile faded a little. "Allison told me you weren't really into games anymore, that you were trying to be more mature since the engagement." Another lie. Gaming was my main stress relief, the thing I did to unwind after long coding sessions. Allison had been systematically cutting me off from connecting with people who might have common interests with me. The contrast with Allison was stark. Where Allison dominated conversations and made everything about her, Zoe built people up. Where Allison was constantly checking her looks and taking selfies, Zoe was present in the moment. I'd always seen Zoe as just Allison's friend, but she was actually amazing in her own right. And apparently I wasn't the only one noticing our connection. "Dude," Cole said after Zoe left to use the restroom, "she's into you." "What?" "No, we're just commiserating over Allison's nonsense." "Uh-huh, and I'm the Queen of England," he sipped his soda. "Look, I'm not saying do anything about it, that would be a mess right now. But just notice it, okay? Notice that there are women out there who actually see you." I brushed it off, but I couldn't help but feel something shift in how I saw Zoe. Not as a potential romantic interest, it was way too soon for that, and way too complicated, but as someone who might actually get me in a way Allison never had. Over the next few days, Zoe and I texted constantly, about Allison at first, but then about everything else: music, movies, games, work frustrations, family stories. She told me about her struggles as a freelancer, how her parents still pushed her to get a real job despite her talent. I told her about losing my parents young, how video games had been my escape during those dark years. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again, like maybe my life wasn't completely over just because my engagement was. Later that week, I was still staying at Kohl's when I got a particularly nasty text from Allison. "Either get your ass home tomorrow, or I'm selling your signed baseball collection to pay for the wedding you're jeopardizing with your pathetic sulking." That collection was worth nearly $15,000. Some were passed down from my grandfather, who raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 12. He'd taken me to games, taught me to keep score, made each acquisition a special memory. It was literally the only thing I had left of him. I showed the text to Cole, who said, "Dude, you need to get your valuables out of that apartment," a sap Zoe offered to help since Allison was scheduled for a work dinner, probably with Mark that night. She'd been to our place enough times that it wouldn't look suspicious if anyone saw her. We went to the apartment together. While I was packing my important documents and collection, Zoe was looking through Allison's planner to see if there was anything else I should know. "Ryan?" she called from the bedroom, her voice strange. "You should see this." It was a detailed list titled "After Marriage." It included, "Get Ryan to add me to his inheritance from grandparents. $180,000 convince Ryan to let Mark invest our savings." Mark had apparently been promising to double Allison's money, phase out Cole and Maya, labeled as negative influences, accident pregnancy by year 2, full-time mom by year 3. The last item punched me in the gut, keep side arrangement with Mark. He's promised VP position if things continue. She'd literally mapped out her plan to use me while continuing to sleep with her boss for career advancement. My entire future flashed before my eyes, trapped in a marriage with a woman who saw me as nothing but a meal ticket and sperm donor, isolated from my real friends, my inheritance squandered on her and her lover, raising a kid that might not even be mine. Something in me snapped. I looked at Zoe, who seemed equally horrified, and said, "She doesn't get to win. Not this time." We gathered more evidence, took pictures of the planner, found receipts for gifts for Mark hidden in her dresser, and discovered a burner phone with even more explicit messages that made what I'd seen on the iPad look tame by comparison. Zoe found a folder on Allison's laptop, labeled insurance. It contained manipulated screenshots of text conversations with me that made it look like I was abusive or controlling, messages I'd never sent, things I'd never said. She'd been building a backup plan in case I ever caught her, setting the stage to paint herself as the victim. "She's been gaslighting you for years," Zoe said quietly, "making you think you're the problem when it's been her all along." That night, after securing my valuables at Kohl's, Zoe and I talked for hours. The betrayal, the manipulation, the years of lies. It all came pouring out. I admitted how Allison had slowly made me doubt myself, my worth, my attractiveness, my interests, how I'd given up hobbies, lost touch with friends, changed my appearance and behavior bit by bit to try to be good enough for her. Zoe told me how Allison had subtly controlled their friendship too, dictating who Zoe could date, undermining her career choices, borrowing money she never repaid, even taking credit for Zoe's design work when talking to potential clients. We'd both been under Allison's influence for so long that breaking free felt like coming up for air after nearly drowning. I'm not sure who moved first. One minute we were sitting on Cole's balcony talking, the next we were kissing. It wasn't planned, wasn't revenge either. It was a genuine connection between two people who'd been manipulated by the same person for years and were finally seeing clearly. Afterward, lying there together, Zoe whispered, "What have we done?" I didn't have an answer. Part of me felt guilty, not because of any loyalty to Allison, that was long gone, but because I wondered if this was just a trauma response, two wounded people clinging to each other in a storm. But another part of me recognized something real in what had happened between us, something honest and respectful that had been missing from my relationship with Allison for a long time, maybe forever. "I don't know what this is," I told Zoe, "but I know it's not wrong." She nodded against my chest. "But complicated. Very, very complicated." We agreed to keep what happened between us, just for now. Figure out the Allison situation first, then see if there was something real to explore between us. Of course, the universe had other plans. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled at this fancy restaurant Allison's parents had paid for, $2,800 for 40 people. I'd barely communicated with Allison in the 3 weeks since discovering her affair. But I showed up with a plan. I'd talked it through with Cole, who thought I was insane, and with my Aunt Carol, who surprisingly supported me. "That girl's been playing you for years," she said. "Time she learned actions have consequences." Allison acted like everything was normal, playing the excited bride-to-be for our families. Her parents, Tom and Patricia, both around 60, were hosting my Aunt Carol, a 58-year-old female who raised me after my parents died, was there with my cousins. All our friends, including Cole, Maya, and yes, Zoe. The tension was unreal. Allison kept trying to touch me, to act like we were still madly in love, while I maintained a cold distance. Her mother asked if I was feeling well. Her father made jokes about last-minute jitters. During the appetizers, Allison clinked her glass for attention. "We're so happy you're all here to celebrate our special weekend. Ryan's been a little distant with wedding jitters, but we're more in love than ever, right, honey?" She tried to take my hand across the table. I pulled back and stood up. "Actually, I have an announcement." My voice was surprisingly steady. "The wedding is canceled. Allison has been having an affair with her boss." The room went dead silent. Allison's face went from fake smile to absolute rage in seconds. "He's lying," she shrieked. "Ryan, what the hell?" I pulled out my phone. "I have screenshots of your conversations with Mark. Would you like me to read them aloud, or should I just send them to everyone here?" Her father stood up, face red. "What is the meaning of this?" "Tom, I'm sorry you're finding out this way, but your daughter has been cheating on me for months, possibly years. She's been using our wedding fund to buy gifts for her boss, who she's been sleeping with to get promotions at work." Allison switched tactics, tears suddenly streaming down her face. "It was one mistake. He's blowing it out of proportion." That's when Zoe stood up. "It wasn't one mistake. It's been at least 4 different men over the past 3 years. I've covered for you because I thought you'd grow up, but you never did." Allison's eyes went wide with betrayal, then narrowed as she looked between me and Zoe, some realization dawning. "You slept with him, didn't?" she hissed at Zoe. The room erupted in gasps and murmurs. I remained calm. Allison told me, and I quote, "If it bothers you so much, go get yourself some side action too. Consider it my pre-wedding gift to you." I simply took her up on her generous offer. Her brother Jake, a 33-year-old male, stood up, looking like he wanted to fight me, but her father put a hand on his shoulder to stop him. I continued, making eye contact with everyone in the room. I also discovered Allison was planning to use our marriage to access my inheritance, planned to get pregnant accidentally, and intended to continue sleeping with Mark even after we were married in exchange for career advancement. I took out copies of the after-marriage list and passed them around. People gasped as they read it. She created fake evidence to make it look like I was abusive in case I ever caught her cheating, I added, showing the insurance folder screenshots. She's been systematically isolating me from friends, mocking me behind my back, and using me as her stable backup plan while she does whatever and whoever she wants. Allison was screaming now, calling me every name in the book. Her mother had her head in her hands. My Aunt Carol looked both heartbroken and relieved. "Ryan, stop it!" Allison shrieked. "You're ruining everything." "No, Allison, you did that all on your own." I turned to the stunned dinner guests. "I've already canceled what vendors would give refunds. The rest, unfortunately, is lost money. I'm sorry to those who traveled for this wedding. The room blocks at the hotel are still valid if you want a weekend getaway." I walked out, Zoe, Cole, and Maya following me. Behind us, I could hear Allison's full meltdown continuing, her voice hitting octaves I didn't know were possible. Outside, her father caught up with me. I tensed, expecting anger, but instead he just looked defeated. "I'm sorry, son," he said quietly. "We didn't raise her to be this person." That broke me more than anything Allison had done, the genuine remorse in his eyes, the realization that he was seeing his daughter clearly, perhaps for the first time. "I know you didn't, Tom," I said. "I'm sorry too." It's been 2 months since the rehearsal dinner catastrophe. The fallout has been both brutal and surprisingly liberating. Allison's life imploded spectacularly. After her meltdown at the rehearsal dinner, she kept insisting I was lying until Mark's wife, Sarah, found out about their affair. Turns out Sarah's father is the CEO of the company they work for. Mark was fired, his reputation in the industry destroyed. With Mark gone, those promises of a VP position vanished. Allison was demoted after an HR investigation found she'd been using company resources to plan their meetups. Her meteoric rise in the company turned out to be more about who she was sleeping with than her actual skills. But here's where it gets even better. Remember that wedding fund and the money she was siphoning to buy stuff for Mark? I'd actually moved most of it to a separate account months ago when planning to surprise her with extra honeymoon activities. She'd been stealing from what she thought was our full savings, not realizing she was only taking from a smaller account I'd left active. I found out later that she'd also maxed out 3 credit cards in her name for wedding expenses. Expenses that turned out to be weekend getaways, lingerie, and a Rolex for Mark. With her reduced salary, she had no way to make the minimum payments. When she realized she couldn't afford her luxury apartment alone after the split, she tried to crawl back. The text started about 3 weeks after the rehearsal dinner disaster. "Ryan, we need to talk. This has gotten out of hand. I made a mistake, but you're throwing away 7 years over one slip-up. You know we're good together. Don't let your pride ruin what we have." When I didn't respond, the messages got desperate. "I'm struggling to make rent. Can we at least discuss the apartment? My parents are barely speaking to me. You've turned everyone against me with your lies. Mark was nothing. You were everything." The final straw came when she showed up at my new apartment. Cole's girlfriend Maya's brother rents out the unit below him, $1,650 a month, decent for this area. She was hysterical, crying, alternating between begging me to take her back and accusing me of ruining her life. "You turned Zoe against me. You turned my parents against me. I made you. You were nothing when we met. Awkward, boring, no ambition. I gave you a personality." I recorded the entire meltdown on my phone, not my proudest moment, but it came in handy when she later tried to tell people I'd been abusive. Whenever someone approached me with doubts, I simply played the recording, let her own words expose her. In one particularly satisfying moment, she screamed, "You were lucky I stayed with you. Do you know how many guys wanted me, how many offers I had? I chose you." I just looked at her calmly and said, "No, Allison, you settled for me, because those other guys just wanted to sleep with you. They didn't want to marry you. They saw the real you." That hit her like a physical blow. The truth she'd always feared, that she was good enough for a fun time but not for forever. Not because of her looks, which were undeniable, but because of what was underneath. Her financial situation hit rock bottom when the credit card bills came due, over $28,000 in debt with no way to pay it off on her reduced salary. The apartment complex sued her for breaking the lease. Her car, a leased BMW she couldn't afford even when we were together, was repossessed last week. Her father called me, not to beg for reconciliation but to apologize again and to let me know Allison was moving back home with them at 30 years old, jobless. She finally got fired completely after showing up late and hungover too many times and broken. He sounded tired, mentioning they were getting her into therapy. "She's been this way since high school," he admitted. "We enabled it, thought she'd grow out of it. I'm sorry you paid the price for our failure as parents." The most vindicating part came through mutual friends. Allison had been bad-mouthing me to everyone who would listen, calling me controlling, jealous, sexually inadequate, financially irresponsible, only to have people who'd seen the evidence or witnessed her meltdown correct her publicly. One by one, her friends distanced themselves, tired of the drama and lies. Her sister, Emma, actually reached out to me, apologizing for the phone call where she told me to man up. I've spent my whole life in Allison's shadow, she confessed. I always believed her version of events because it was easier than standing up to her. What you did at that dinner, I've never seen anyone just tell the truth about her like that. It was like watching someone finally say, the emperor has no clothes. The social media fallout was brutal too. Allison had built this perfect Instagram persona, the successful career woman, the devoted fiancée, the fashionable influencer in the making. After everything imploded, people started calling out the fakery in her old posts, the staged photos, the borrowed designer clothes she'd returned the next day, the fake vacation pics taken at hotel lobbies where she'd pretend she was staying. The carefully constructed image she'd spent years building crumbled in weeks. Last I heard, she'd deleted all her social media accounts. As for me and Zoe, we're taking things slow, very slow. What happened between us that night wasn't just about revenge. There was a real connection there, but we both know it started in a messed up situation. We've been dating properly for about a month now. No rushing, no games, just getting to know each other. It's strange dating someone who already knows all your baggage, who is there for the worst moment of your life, but also freeing in a way. There are no pretenses between us, no carefully edited versions of ourselves. She's seen me at my lowest, and I've seen her wrestling with guilt over enabling Allison's behavior for so long. Cole and Maya have been incredible through all this. My Aunt Carol loves Zoe, and has basically adopted her into our small family traditions already. I'm seeing a therapist to work through the trust issues from Allison's betrayal. The most unexpected outcome has been my relationship with Mark's wife, Sarah. After everything blew up, she reached out to me. We met for coffee, compared notes, and realized how completely we'd both been deceived. She's become something of a friend. We're part of the same unfortunate club no one wants to join. She's divorcing Mark and taking him for everything he's worth, with the full support of her CEO father. I still have moments where I miss the Allison I thought I knew. 7 years is a long time to invest in someone. But then I remember she never actually existed. The real Allison was manipulating me from day one, seeing me as a stable meal ticket while she did whatever and whoever she wanted. Last night, Zoe asked me if I regretted how everything went down, if I wished I'd just walked away quietly instead of the public exposure. No, I told her honestly. Allison would have spun that narrative too, made me the villain somehow. At least this way the truth came out. The truth cost Allison everything. Her job, her reputation, her comfortable lifestyle, and her carefully constructed image. But it freed me from a life that would have been built on lies. Sometimes I think about that after marriage list she made and get chills, realizing how close I came to being trapped in her web. Sometimes the most painful moments in your life are actually saving you from something much worse. I don't know what the future holds with Zoe or with my career. Just got a promotion to senior developer, a $12,000 salary bump, or with anything really. But for the first time in 7 years, every decision I make is actually mine. No manipulation, no walking on eggshells, no gaslighting. Allison thought I was nothing without her. Turns out I'm everything I need to be on my own, and that's worth more than any revenge could ever be. To answer some common questions, yes, I'm still with Zoe, and things are going really well. We're taking it slow, but I've never felt this kind of genuine connection before. No, I haven't heard from Allison directly in about a month. Her dad texts occasionally just to check in, which is weird but kind of nice, for those saying I should have just walked away quietly. You weren't there for 7 years of manipulation. The public exposure wasn't just petty revenge. It was the only way to make sure she couldn't spin the narrative and make me the bad guy. To the guy asking if Zoe is hot, seriously, that's what you took from this story? But yes, she's gorgeous, talented, and kind. Way out of my league, but somehow into me. And yes, the baseball collection is safe and sound in my new place. Some things are worth more than money.